Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Cocktails and Vinyl. Cheers.
Here's tonight. Well, and all the rest can go to hell.
Tonight we have Kurt and we have Shawn, and we're going to talk about record store day titles. And curious to hear what you guys are looking forward to, also. Yeah, there we go. Let's. It's going to be here before we know it. The record store day drops 2021. We got June 12th and July 17th. I tell you, folks, last year record store day drops was a big plus for me, and it brought people into the shop, and it helped. And I was looking forward. I'm looking forward to record store day drops 2021, and I'm glad it's a drop this year also. Yeah.
Adam, can I add that? I mean, fortunately, both Shawn and I live in your area. But that doesn't mean that there's people who are watching from other areas that may not be interested in what their local stores will be having as well. So I think the goal here is to really talk about what the availability is for Record Store Day and how we may all focus on what we can do in those drops versus thinking about what we're just going to get from you.
Absolutely, yeah. But I want to hear from everybody what you're going to get, not only what you would like to get from me, but also I want to hear about the titles. I like to hear about the titles people are looking forward to. I tell you, Record Store Day comes and goes, and there's still so many titles I just never heard. Yeah. And so I look forward to doing that. Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm really looking forward to that Echo and the Bunnymen.
Cool. Yeah, I saw that. I just recently saw that one. I was looking at it earlier today when I was standing in line for my shot. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about the Echo and the Bunnymen one. And so I was like, that's
Speaking of,
and I mean, even for someone like me who tends to prefer vintage pressings and stuff. I mean, Record Store Day usually always has some things that for me, like the single biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is the new Garbage album. Because it's coming out for Record Store Day first, apparently. And so, even though it'll see a general release, I'm sure it'll be on some particular colored vinyl or whatever. So yeah, the new album's called No Gods, No Masters. And really looking forward to that. For those who lost touch with albums into the modern, they are a great band and continue to be a great band. So
cool. Yeah, they sure are. And so the Echo and the Bunnymen recorded in 2001 at Paul McCartney's Institute of Performance Arts live in Liverpool.
That's cool.
Yeah. I didn't keep up with Echo and the Bunnymen in 2001. Kurt, did you?
Well, what did you ask?
I didn't keep up with Echo and the Bunnymen in 2001.
Well, I wasn't up to speed with what they were doing in 2001. I was up to speed with it prior to that, and then I saw them in 2003, 2004. So, I mean, it was never out of my mind, so to speak. But clearly the list here is kind of a what's what of their biggest hits, so to speak. I mean, it's not there's no kind of off songs because again, Echo has a lot of several releases, but minus a couple of the kind of deep cuts there, the All My Colors and all that jazz. But a lot of those are things that you would expect to hear in an Echo, even if the Echo is not the Echo anymore. If you saw them post 2004, 2005, it was more just Ian. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, did you enjoy him when you saw him in 2000?
Oh, it was fantastic.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Third row, small club.
Oh, that's great, man. That's the way to see a band like Echo.
Yeah.
I
mean, they clearly had some issues. I mean, in terms of their mental health and or substance use, but it was still a great show.
That's triggering memories of Modest Mouse. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Right there.
Oh, on pink vinyl.
I'm all about it.
1, 2, 6, 11 songs.
Yep.
So, Shawn, is that an entirely new drop? That's
not
a
brand new record. So it's one of those cases where it's coming out on vinyl first for Record Store Day, and then down the road, maybe in a few months, there'll be a general market release. But yeah, I want that Record Store Day release.
Okay, good. Hey, Brooke, how are you?
Hey, Brooke.
Yeah. So if you get it on Record Store Day, Shawn, or you get the Record Store Day drops 2021, do we know what day it is? Is that June or July?
It's June.
June. You'll get it on pink vinyl. So that sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brooke, we're talking about Record Store Day drops 2021. Care to share anything that you'll like to see when you go to your record store on that day?
So, hey, Adam, can I ask a question of you? And maybe give us a little bit of clarification. So, I mean, there's a lot of things in the drops here. There's the 12th and the 17th is the things they're talking about. But there's lots of variations in terms of what's a exclusive, what's regional, what is there's a third category. I can't think of it. Can you clarify?
The third category is RSD first.
Yeah. So can you clarify for all of us and some of our listeners or watchers what those different categories mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So for Record Store Day, traditionally, it's all about celebrating independent record store. And to help celebrate an independent record store, there's special releases that are just exclusive for that day only, that you may never see again. And so that's what it's all about, is getting out to your independent record store and getting something that's kind of neat. Now, there are some limited runs that can be regionally focused. I mean, like, for instance, like, here's a good example, the Backsliders, Raleigh band. They may not be as popular on the West Coast, but, with magazines like No Depression, they might be. But, the folks in Raleigh and North Carolina and on the East Coast, Backsliders, that's going to be an important release.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a shame they're only pressing 250 of them. But
I know, and I'm trying to order as many of those as I possibly can. Yeah. Hey, Mike, how are you? Looking for? Yeah, I've heard people say the Flaming Lips Soft Bulletin Companion. I would like to hear that too. I wish I could get one of every copy and just open it up and listen to it, but I would have to start playing them right now and be ready for a Record Store Day Drops 2021.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can look at the Flaming Lips, see what that's all about. Yeah.
After the Flaming Lips, I'll bring up another one that we can't not talk about.
Go right ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, for those that, for anybody that has never heard the first two Black Sabbath albums with Ronnie James Dio, first off, I'm sorry. And second off, both of them are coming out as picture discs for Record Store Day, Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. You would be wise to get those because that is the textbook definition of heavy metal.
I tell you what, Shawn, I don't disagree with you. I got Heaven and Hell at a thrift store for like $0.25 at one point, and I was like, wow, that's not the Black Sabbath I thought I was going to get.
So that Lemonheads release that she's talking about is cool because Hate Your Friends, that came out in 1987, back when they were still a hardcore band, before they ever became popular and anybody knew who they were. So, I mean, that's a good record, but that one is probably a little more specialized because, as we all know, hardcore doesn't have quite the mass appeal, but that's a great one. I'm very much looking forward to trying to find that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, yeah. Also tonight, happy birthday, Kurt.
Thanks.
Hey, Leah, how are you? Yeah.
Oh, happens my wife drops in and asks what I went for my birthday to remind everyone it's my birthday.
Well, hell, Kurt, I didn't realize it was your birthday.
I'm an old man, Shawn, so let's not rub it in. But
you're as old as you feel.
I got a plasmatic shirt on, so how old could I be? Well, don't answer that.
Hey, you might be old, but you got to see all the cool bands, right?
I've got a mug that says that.
Oh, there you go.
My lovely wife, Leah, bought me. I have a mug that says I may be old, but I got to see all the cool bands.
Excellent.
There's a Jerry Garcia release. And
And that's alive. Is that correct?
if I'm not mistaken, it's the 30th anniversary. Let's take a look. Yeah.
Oh, the Jerry Garcia 5
the original Jerry
LPs.
Garcia.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff.
There is.
A whole lot
There
of
is a
Jerry.
lot of stuff, Shawn. But when you count the titles,
There's
2,
only
4,
like
6,
8
8,
songs on 8
yeah,
different
yeah.
sides of a record.
There's only
Yeah,
15 songs.
Yeah, they're all 12 minutes long.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun.
There's a live Dead as well. Is not there?
You know, I was thinking so too, but I'm gonna double check that. It would be Record Store Day if there wasn't a Dead.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be Record Store Day without the Dead and Bob Dylan at the very least.
I don't know that I saw Bob Dylan. Now that I mentioned
Yeah,
it.
yeah. No, there's a Dylan release in there.
Look at that image.
Nice. Playing a hoagie roll. I dig it.
Yeah. So
I knew it
6,000.
was a foreign concert. I can't remember if it was Egypt or if it was a European. So it's the France.
Yeah, Paris, May 3rd, 1972, from
That's
Euro
an early
72.
I bet that's a good one.
Darn it. So it says there's 10,000 worldwide, but it also says that there's 6,700. So that must mean that there's 3,300 for the rest of the world. Yeah. Wow, that is awesome. I want to say thank you to all of our sponsors for Record Store Day drops this year. These guys bring it to us, and they're really.
Is it
cool.
the same group generally, or?
It is, but sometimes there's additions, and sometimes things change. Yeah, Crosley, they're really good to our Record Crate, and Furnace is a wonderful record. Yes, sir.
I was going to say, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up a really cool jazz title. There was a great Kenny Dorham album called Quiet Kenny that came out on Prestige sublabel New Jazz, either in 59 or 1960. And Kraft Recordings is doing a reissue of that for Record Store Day drops. And Quiet Kenny. Yeah, that one.
I'm making notes.
That is an absolutely incredible. That is an incredible album.
Wow.
And Kraft Recordings always does top-notch reissues. I mean, if you take everything that should be reissued in a high quality, or everything that should be in a high quality, well done reissue, Kraft Recordings checks all the boxes. So
Cool.
if you like jazz, highly recommended. That album is amazing.
Well, cool. Hey, we should say hello to a few people here. Hello, Now Spinning TV. How are you? Thanks for joining. You're not in a good spot there, Shawn. Sorry about that. I did not realize there was a way to know if it was worldwide release like that. Yeah. If you I'm just sharing the recordstoreday.com list right there. Hey, TARDIS, just got here talking about the Dead album. I have that show, but don't really honestly care about that on LP because it breaks up the flow. Okay. Yeah.
Tapers.
Well, they probably had to change the flow of the show a little bit.
Absolutely.
To fit the right, to because of space on an LP.
Yeah, you can't break up a 90-minute tape with a.
Right.
One thing you can do,
TARDIS.
One thing you can do is get your friend to buy you another copy of it and get 2 turntables and a mixer, and you can keep it going the whole time.
Perfect.
Yeah, there you go.
Or you can
And I
get a
know someone
stacker.
that'll sell you all those things.
There you go. Yeah.
That's creative.
I totally understand what you're talking about there, TARDIS. And there's some double discs that I like having.
Hey, Russell.
Hey, Russell. There's some double discs I like to have it on CD so that I can put it on my hard drive and listen to it from start to finish. Yeah.
You remember that? You remember that Flaming Lips album, Zyrica, that came out in '97? That was on 4 CDs with the idea that you would have 4 boom boxes in the room and set them up.
I have it.
Yeah.
Did you ever play it the way it was intended?
No, hell no.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, Russell, how are you? Brilliant idea. There you go. Yeah. I have it on vinyl. There you go. Yeah. And that was a record store day 1 year. Flaming Lips. Absolutely. So I have to think about, when I place my order, I have to think about my jazz people. I have to think about my jam people, like the Dead and the Allman Brothers. I have to think about the indie rock people, the classic rock people, the country, the Americana. It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
So let me show you a couple of the obscure rock people that punk / obscure that are not quite in those categories, if you don't mind, Adam. There's a couple of them that stand out for me that I'm really interested in. The first one is the Buzzcocks, A Different Compilation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is really just kind of a reissue on Cherry Red, of all labels, of some of their
Cherry Red? Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Of some of their unique their biggest hits, so to speak. I mean, and that's great. I there's nothing wrong with Buzzcocks. I love the Buzzcocks. I just got an OG of A Different Kind of Tension literally this week. So there's a couple different, that can do no wrong with Buzzcocks, but it looks like an interesting compilation in that sense. So I think as a drop, that's an interesting one. There's another one in that general alphabet there that I want to say.
Sure.
Dirty Three. So there's a band called the Dirty Three, which is they're doing a re-release of Ocean Songs, the deluxe edition. Dirty Three is Nick Cave's one of Nick Cave's artists who plays the violin and is he just released an album with him right now. His name's escaping me, but I mean, fantastic version of just kind of, and this is an instrumental album, quite frankly. The Dirty Three album is, so it's amazing. And the band is apparently has Nick Cave on piano in this case, but it's does it say who's the guys whose name is?
I was going to say, is it Nick Cave? Is there anybody else from the Bad Seeds in that band as well, or is it just?
Well,
Nick
it depends on who you consider the current Bad Seeds. So Dirty Three is gosh darn it.
Well, Shawn's here from Spinning TV. He's Nick Cave's Australian. Come on now, help us, Shawn.
Warren Ellis. Thank you, Russell. Warren Ellis. Warren Ellis is the mastermind of Dirty Three. Dirty Three is amazing. Listen, if you get a chance to listen to any of the 2 or 3 Dirty Three albums, listen to them from beginning to end. Again, almost entirely instrumental, but just fantastic. So this is one of the things I'm really looking forward to hearing and seeing the expanded version of it. To be clear, thank you very much, Russell.
There's only 400 of those available.
Well, that's great.
That means I have to order 100, then maybe I'll get one.
So
it's no secret, folks, that when we as record stores, when we order records, we're allocated because of there's so many cool things that are happening, and cool stores out there that are participating in record store day drops. Yeah, Shawn, you were saying?
Oh yeah, so Genesis is my favorite band of all time across any genre, and I noticed there's a title there, Live at Nebworth 1990. That show that they did at Nebworth in 1990 is probably one of the best live performances they ever did in the Phil Collins era. And if you like that era of Genesis, if you like 80s Genesis, you cannot go wrong with that show. I have been listening to that show for years as, shall we say, footwear, bootlegs. But that show is amazing. So highly recommended.
Okay, yeah. Russell, I didn't see any Zappa. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to the Allman Brothers, Steely Dan, and maybe a few others. I think there's 2 Steely Dans, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, and a few others. I'd like to hear what the other ones were. Kurt, were there any other ones that were on? You spoke about the Dirty Three and
Well, as a longtime Police fan and having seen them in 3 different decades, I mean, I think the 2 live versions, the Boston 1979 and the Atlanta 1983, really strike me as an interesting thing I'd like to have. I mean, I don't need to have them again, but those are certainly interesting. I mean, I've been a longtime follower of the Police from the beginning, but and those are 2 kind of critical points in their careers. So I think that would be great to have. And I mentioned when we were backstage earlier, the John Prine issue drops. I mean, I think it's hard for me not to want to find and get as much John Prine as I can now that he's gone, even though I have a lot of it. But I mean, it's just some of it's so classic that it's hard not to want it.
I would argue that if Bob Dylan is not the greatest American songwriter of the modern era, that John Prine is in that conversation.
I think that you're absolutely right, and I wouldn't disagree with either parts of that argument.
Yeah, some people would say that John Prine would outshine. Yeah.
Well, I think there's 2 different schools there. Not to get into a big debate, but I mean, we've got the hillbilly cowboy, let's all have a bunch of drinks and die at 54, and then the Bob Dylan, who was just the poet, right? So those 2 different groups, maybe that was an oversimplification of those groups, but that's the way I look at Prine, and I put him in the same thing with a lot of those other Texas singer-songwriters.
Absolutely.
And Dylan was
like Cherry Jeff Walker and those guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dylan was just a hippie poet that carried it on for a long time, and it still is.
Hello, Mick. How are you tonight? Thank you for joining us. Darn it, I messed up there. I was trying to get Shawn on the other side so we could see things a little better, but sorry, Shawn. I'm upset that Fish didn't release Farmhouse. Yeah. Usually there's a Fish for Record Store Day. That's for sure. I think I have the Allman Brothers show on hard drive, but I can't resist Dwayne.
There's a Styx. So maybe the Styx covers the Fish. I'm not sure. Oh, well, maybe not.
So you're saying that this was Dwayne's last show that's going to be out for Record Store Day? Drops 2020-21? I did not know that. Huh. Let's take a look there.
Doesn't say.
The final note.
That would be an indication that you may be right.
Oh, my stars. Live recording of Dwayne
just for the history.
Holy smoke. Wow. How about that? See? I'm learning, folks. Thank you so much.
Well, that's incredible.
Wow, I have to make a note of that.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool to have just for the historical significance of it, if nothing else.
Yeah.
What's the Steely Dan one? Let's take a look. Oh, here you go. TARDIS is here. The Steely Dan records are their final 2. I'm not sure if they've been released on LP before.
Oh, 2 Against Nature? Oh, man. Oh, my God. That one they put out in 2000, 2 Against Nature. God, that's a great album. You know what we could stand an LP release of is Donald Fagen's second solo album, Karma Kyriad. That album's so good. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, I must have browsed right past that. If 2 Against Nature is on LP, I am all over that.
Well, let's find. Oh, look at there. Look at there. Look at there. Look at there.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. I'm all over that. I am all over that. I cannot even tell you guys, if you have never heard that, it might have come out in 2000 when Steely Dan was considered a bunch of has-beens. No, that album is fan-freaking-tastic. Oh, it's so good.
Steely Dan was considered has-beens at some point?
Hell, I think by the early 80s, Steely Dan's shtick was starting to run a little thin.
Well, I don't disagree with that, but I'm not sure that makes them has-beens. So,
Well,
Every time somebody brings in a bunch of CDs to sell, this Steely Dan is in it.
there's a reason for that, Adam. That's a good album. And a lot of people bought it. It's a good record.
so to jump the shark here a little bit, what do you know of the Warren Zevon, the Preludes? Is that, from what I understand, that's an early recordings version of some of the things he did that were more infamous. That his son discovered a bunch of recordings.
Let's look.
So it's early Werewolves of London, early other pieces.
Wow.
So New West. Gosh, New West. They send me a lot of stuff. I doubt I'll get this one. Oh, here it is right here. Let's take a look. There's only 1,800 made. His son discovered 126 unreleased outtakes and demos and a piano-sized touring case. Wow.
That is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a Warren Zevon fan, but as a drop, I think that's a fantastic opportunity to add something to your Warren Zevon catalog.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I am one of those. I mean, I love Warren Zevon. I love a lot of what he does, but I just noticed that, and I thought it would be fantastic to find something like that.
So there's 1,800 for America, and there's 3,000 worldwide. Yeah.
Stupid world.
Stupid. We want them all. So it says it was released May 1st, 2007 on CD.
What's a CD?
I don't know.
Oh, is that those like little like 5-inch shiny things that were all
That's those little records that all sound like static when I put them on my turntable.
Okay, you know what? This is going to sound really funny, but you know what my issue with CDs has always been is that they sound too clean.
Mm.
Like, I don't know. That, and every single one is a perfect copy. Like, every one is the exact same. With records, it's like, they could press 15,000 of them, but no two are exactly alike.
Oh, wow.
You're right.
You saw Steely Dan with Michael McDonald. Now, what is this Kim Fowley produced stuff? What was that with, Russell? We're missing that. Let's see. Mike says, don't forget about Rage.
Yeah, the Battle of Mexico City, which is the Rage release, is it's a live version of Rage Against the Machine, and vintage Rage Against the Machine from 1999. So, I mean, again, if you're a Rage fan, I mean, why not try and pick that up? A lot of things have changed since those days, 23 years ago, 22 years ago, but it's got all the classic Rage Against the Machine versions on there.
It's funny. Tom Morello has a radio show on Sirius XM on the Hair Nation channel, and he actually plays hair metal and shit, and he loves to talk about his days before Rage when he was wearing spandex and had teased hair and all that shit.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I don't know if you've told me that before, Shawn, or I actually listened to a little bit of that in my wife's car, but it was like Tom Morello's talking about groups I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
That really kind of obscure stuff that's not part of him.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called
Hey, take care,
Radio
Shawn. We'll see you soon. Yeah. Hey, Russell has a suggestion for you. Run your CDs through an analog tuner.
Oh, I've done that. It's still, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about a little crackle and hiss. It just adds a little bit of authenticity, I guess.
Yeah. Hello, Carol. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're talking about Record Store Day Drops 2021. First one coming up in June, on June 12th, and the second one is July 17th. Yeah. Yeah.
There's another one that's on my kind of sub list here, and that is the Sisters of Mercy, and then my goth era.
You had a goth era, Kurt?
Well, I still have a goth era in some ways.
Still.
But these are
the way that you say that, you say it with a little bit of contempt, like, yeah, I'm not really proud of this, but I still.
no, I'm still pretty proud of it, quite frankly. I mean, Joy Division was listed as my top band, and that's not necessarily goth per se, but post-punk. But
There you go.
who classifies it? Anyway, it's a three-side release, a three-side drop that includes, and it's limited to 4,000, I think, worldwide.
Yeah.
But it's got all their kind of high-end versions of it and of their songs, and it includes a cover of Dolly Parton's Jolene. So I'm really fascinated to pick it up just for that reason.
Yeah.
For no other reason.
Jesus.
Absolutely.
That's funny.
Hello, Dolly. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're talking about Record Store Day Drops 2021. Let's take a look at the Sisters record. I mean, I kind of like most everything I've heard from BBC. Yeah. 4,000. This is in July. The cool thing is I don't have to pay for the July records until it's close to the July drops.
So you can use your profit from June to pay for July.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so pretty much everything on side one and most half of side three is from their primary album, but then they've got several of their kind of singles and then some one-offs like the Jolene and 1982 and a couple others that are kind of either on singles, B-side of singles, or rare releases. And again, you know, Sisters were kind of a taste for a lot of people, but I just want to hear him sing Jolene.
So another jazz release, because it wouldn't be Record Store Day without a Bill Evans live release. There's a Bill Evans, I think the Netherlands, 1969, that's coming out. I've never heard that particular show, so I don't know anything about it. But generally, that period of Bill Evans, he was on his game, especially live. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's no possible way that album is anything other than great. Oh, wait, this is studio, it looks like, the Netherlands recordings. Yeah, I don't know if that's live or if it's studio. Huh.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Anagram Music?
I'm not.
So it's 3 LPs. Behind the Dikes, Netherlands recordings. Bill Evans, Eddie Gomez, and Marty Morel. Recorded live, captured live.
Okay, so it is live. Wow.
Remastered from the original tape rails house at the Netherlands Jazz Archive. And incorporation from the Bill Evans estate.
Yeah, there's no way that album's bad. Not that period of his work. No way. Bill Evans put out more great stuff in the late 60s and the early 70s than you could shake a stick at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, that's July, which is good. Yeah. Wow.
I'm going to jump on another one that seems to be released every RSD A or B. Is the Residents. There's another Residents one coming out, which Leftovers again, and I'm trying to figure out exactly what it includes, but it sounds like it's a long forgotten oddities and alternative versions record for the Residents.
That is probably the most Residents album cover I've ever seen in my life. I mean, yeah. Whoever did that album cover, well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
I'm trying to amass as many Residents records as I can, whether I listen to them all or not, or drops as I can. And I think this might be another addition to that collection if I can get it.
Well, let's see what it says text-wise.
Again, another Cherry Red release.
Say again?
Cherry Red on the label. Cherry Red I thought was dead. So it's interesting that a lot of the releases in this RSD
Oh,
this year
it's
are from,
Kurt, it's probably one of those things where some major label, probably Universal, has the rights to Cherry Red's stuff,
Yep.
and so they just
I don't-
created an imprint on demand.
or either they're just honoring their label. But
Yeah.
I'm familiar with MVD. They send me stuff all the time. Okay, 16 alternate interpretations, unreleased oddities and historical artifacts.
which pretty much categorizes the Residents, period. But
Yeah. They were an interesting band.
they still
Put
are.
it mildly.
They are.
They still exist.
Okay.
I love
They were
Bill
supposed to be here
Always-
recently
it's funny when
in the
people try to
Triangle,
get
but they had to
us
cancel. So.
But don't have or no waltz for Debbie.
You have a point there, Tardis.
Yeah.
You absolutely have a point there. And not only that, but I mean, even going outside of his Riverside stuff, if you've never checked it out, I would highly recommend checking out some of his Verve recordings from the 60s. So many of those are just utterly fantastic. And if you want a good taste of a live album of his from that period that was actually released in the period, check out the Verve album, Bill Evans Live at Mantra. That is mind-blowing.
Yeah, let's take a look at this B season and see what we got going on here.
Aglio e olio.
So there's 11,000 of these. It's on Capitol.
I'll translate that because that's Italian. I'll translate that for you when you're done, Adam.
Go right ahead.
Aglio e olio means garlic and oil.
Huh.
That's an odd name for a Beastie Boys album, but okay.
So I recently got this CD. I didn't notice that it was on here as a vinyl. So, good.
Vinyl reissue with 2 newly added bonus tracks.
Light My Fire.
What if that's the Doors? Light My Fire.
I'm guessing it is.
You know what?
Light My Fire.
The only song on that record that I know off the top of my head, that I know by name, is "I Can't Think Straight." That's a great song.
Wow. Yeah. This looked interesting to me. Village of the Dam.
Is that a soundtrack?
Yeah, John
Carpenter.
Oh, and Dave Davies from the.
Yeah, that looks so interesting. Wow.
Cool.
There's just so much cool stuff. I mean, it would take us till tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. to go through every title in here. This was something
I'm down. Let's do it.
This is something I would like to listen to. Is this Harold Budd? I love some Harold Budd.
Okay.
And this is no exception. So even though it is July 17th, I have to place my order for not only June, but for July titles. And so, yeah. So, which is
soon, right?
I'm sorry?
Very soon, correct?
Yeah, tomorrow. Here's another John Carpenter, Ghost of Mars. I haven't heard of this. Hey, that looks like Ice-T.
No, that's Ice Cube.
Okay, cool. Is that Pamela Greer? No, it can't be.
No.
Wow.
Maybe it's just the small screen or the small shot on my screen that almost looked like Lucy Wallace.
Well, it could be her too. Oh, and here's one thing I noticed. So it's a Gerald Castle, which is from Devo. Now look at some Real Gone Music. Okay. Now check this one out. So here's a Devo. And Devo is on MVD audio. And I noticed that this week that they're Devo.
So what's the more info on that one? Can you scroll down?
I sure can. Be glad to.
Oh.
Perform live one night only, the entire as the encore of the band's total Devo concert at the Palace in Hollywood, California, 1988. Wow.
Wow, that's
No,
pretty cool.
But it's 6 songs. Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah. For encore. Wow.
And there's another Devo, like you said. It's not the Devo. There's a Gerald
Castle.
That's not the one you just showed, is it? No.
I showed these two right here, which was Gerald, and then I showed Devo.
Oh, I didn't see the details on the AKA Jihad Jerry.
Sure. And what I was noticing was that it was on 2 different labels. Yeah. Well, limited edition. Blah, 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 blah. It's considered to be the Lost Devo album.
Huh.
It's interesting. Speaking of lost albums, I have a friend that works at a record store up in the northern United States, up in the Rust Belt area. And somehow they had in the store two master tapes of Luther Vandross that had lots of unreleased material that he was very nervous to ship because it's going to some producer in Nashville. And then in addition, they got some kind, oh, cool, TARDIS, very cool. And then in addition, they got some master tape of Stevie Wonder's from Barry Gordy's estate sale that has an unreleased Stevie Wonder album. And I'm like, how does a record store end up with this? And like, it's not for sale. It's something that they're keeping. But it's like, wow.
Wow.
Interesting.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Okay, am I the only one on this chat right now that has not heard of Harold Budd? This is why I love doing this stuff, because you guys tell me about artists that I don't know about all the time. So
exactly,
give me a little background on Harold Budd, because I don't know anything about him.
So, Kurt, you want to start off? I'll join in.
I'm right there with Shawn.
So, when you think of Harold Budd, you think of Brian Eno, someone that did some interesting avant-garde music that was very minimalist.
Was it ambient like Brian Eno, or was it just kind of out there and crazy?
Not everything Brian did was ambient, but at the same time, I learned of Harold Budd when he performed when he did some projects with Cocteau Twins, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
okay.
And so I was like, "Ooh, who is this guy?" Because he just brought in beautiful sounds, wonderful textures, and I have some Harold Budd stuff. But yeah, absolutely. And TARDIS got to see Harold Budd at the big.
Cool.
You please share with us your thoughts on Harold Budd and to help complete the big picture of Harold Budd.
See, this is why I love stuff like this, because you guys both introduced me to stuff that I never would have found otherwise. That's one of the great things about being a music lover and having other friends that are music lovers is you just learn from each other, you know?
Yeah. Tell us what you like, what you don't, but don't tell us what you don't like. TARDIS, you're welcome to share some stuff with us about Harold Budd. Just found out Heartbreakers. Yes, I was reading about that. Not Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, but Heartbreakers, which I'm sure you're familiar with, Kurt.
Yep.
Yeah, New York City.
Yep.
Let's take a look.
Yeah, all that early New York City. When I say early, I mean 70s New York City stuff. I mean, yeah. So I see that there's an interesting Vienna remix of Ultravox's. I mean, one of my all-time favorite records. Be interesting to hear what the Steven Wilson remix is like, but just for kicks and giggles as a drop. But it's hard to go away from the original.
Remixes are a big sticking point with me too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a blessing because of technology and equipment.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just the hurdle that I can't get over is revisionist history.
Yeah, this does look very interesting, TARDIS. Thanks for sharing that with us. Absolutely.
Yeah, look at those guys. Love those guys.
So this is a completely different band than Tom Petty's backing band.
Not related at all.
Okay.
No comparison, you know.
So,
I don't even think they spell it the same way, do they?
So not that I'm asking anyone to slap labels on them, but you know, like what am I going to hear when I put the needle down on that?
Greatness.
I would say early new wave, power pop / punk. In that
Okay,
kind of,
synthesizer.
Yeah, more kind of
guitar driven,
4-piece driven.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like right up my alley.
You're going to hear people just doing what they felt they need to do rather than try to write a hit record.
Excellent.
Yeah. Harold Budd definitely lumped into the ambient Brian Eno camp. Did quite a bit of instrumental, avant-garde, but accessible, atmospheric, modern, classical type. Died a year or two ago. Thank you so much for
my interest is definitely peaked.
Like a not Tom Petty at all.
So there's another release in here by a band called.
Oh yeah, I'm right. Okay, if that's the type of stuff I'm looking for, yeah, I'm right up. Yeah, that's right up my alley.
Yeah. Early New York punk /
Man, that New York rock and roll scene and the punk scene, you know, in the 70s. I mean, Patti Smith once called whatever that scene was in New York City, she called that a reclamation of rock and roll, and that's really an accurate description.
Yeah, you look at what happened at CBGBs and all those places, and the Talking Heads and the Ramones and the Stooges and the New York Dolls and you know, so many others that were one-offs in some sense was just amazing.
So it's interesting that you say that too, because you know, I feel like
Dictators. Go ahead. Sorry.
Dictators. Now I have heard of the Dictators. So, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that too, Kurt, because rock and roll is an interesting beast because these days I feel like, you know, when you talk about musical art forms that are genuinely, truly American, right? People say jazz, people say blues. Some people also say rock and roll, which I think is true to a point, but at the same time, everything that people love about rock and roll these days is stuff that the British gave us, right? I feel like there are two very distinct periods of rock and roll. There's pre-British invasion, and then there's everything else post-British invasion. And a lot of people don't really do rock and roll anymore. Like a lot of people don't listen to Chuck Berry and Buddy Holly and Bill Haley and the Comets anymore. But that going back to the 70s and what was going on in New York when Patti Smith called that a reclamation of rock and roll, it was sort of like, you know, the reclamation was sort of trying to take rock and roll back as an American art form. And I mean, I think it was successful in some respects, but I don't know that it's had the staying power with the general public that maybe it should have. And
and maybe it's inappropriate for me to lump it in the same category, but the garage rock era and a lot of things that were both kind of, you know, again, 4-piece, you know, guitar, bass, drums, and singer.
No, I think it's absolutely appropriate for you to lump that in. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that garage rock and which transformed into art rock and was an extension of rockabilly in some sense, in some ways, and some of those early kind of late kind of rockers, whatever the rockers were, really kind of defined what some of those things you're talking about are. Now, not that there was not an influence of the British invasion on some of those, but I totally agree with you that I think a lot of that was this really kind of nebulous, we're just going to do our thing.
Yeah.
And no one's going to stop us.
Yeah.
And it was didn't fit in a category. So we said, okay, well, this is avant-garde. This is art rock. This is New York scene. This is, you know, early punk or whatever.
This is No Wave. You remember No Wave?
No, I got a big collection of No Wave, and you're absolutely right.
Nice.
Yeah. This Link Ray looks very interesting to me. a 1964 record that has never ever been reissued, and I'm so happy Sundays is doing this. I'm just wish that the quantity was much more than 1350. But yeah, it's just crazy.
That means if you request 1350, you'll get 13, right?
No, if he requests 1,350, he'll get 2 if he's lucky.
I know.
I can definitely. I want to take a look at this one. Let's see, what's his name?
I'm gonna step away for just a second. I'm not leaving you guys.
I had someone reach out to me about this right here. So Motley Crue, 40 years. Motley Crue, 40 years. Hold on a second. Let's take on.
Adam, congratulations. You just made me feel old. You're right. Yeah. That's right. 40 years. Too Fast for Love, the original indie release of Too Fast for Love, their first album came out in 1981. That was 40 years ago. Holy crap. Motley Crue has been around for 40 years. Jesus H. Christ.
Yeah. Oh. I don't really deal with subgenres and all that. Thelonious Monk says there's 2 types of music, good and bad. Hey, let's take a look at this. This is, so someone reached out to me, and this is cassette only, folks. There's 1,750 of these, and exclusive set of 5 cassettes to commemorate the band's 40th anniversary. This set includes their core catalog titles with artwork. This is an exclusive limited run for Record Store Day drops.
Just to comment on what TARDIS writer said real quick. Thelonious Monk was always good for a quote like that. That's totally something he would have said. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this Tom Petty. And folks, we could do this all day long, but one thing I do want to encourage everyone is to get out there on YouTube and listen to as much of this stuff that you're not familiar with, and see if it's something that you would be interesting. Tom Petty, Angel Dream. Look at that. So desert, flowers, sunset, beautiful. Cool. Special reimagination of the album. She's the one to celebrate. Okay. I'm not familiar with this one. Anybody else?
No, I'm not familiar with that one either.
There we go. Yeah.
So
Cobalt
something.
Blue.
Oh, go ahead, Adam. I'm sorry.
Cobalt Blue.
Cool.
So I was going to ask something of you, Shawn. What do you know about the Miles Davis rare music from the complete Jack Johnson sessions?
That cool. I think is I think that's just that's the leftovers from those sessions that Miles didn't deem good enough. Although of course, Miles deeming it not good enough is still like $100 laying on the ground, so I'm sure it's fantastic. See, Miles Davis had a deep love and respect for boxing, seeing deep parallels between the sweet science of the relationship with music. One of Miles' favorite growing recordings. So, yeah. God, Wayne Shorter, John McLaughlin, Dave Holland, Keith Jarrett, Herbie Hancock, Jack Kitchenette, and Billy Cobham. Jesus, you want to talk about a who's who of jazz of that period? Good God. Wow.
So it might be worth a listen. Is that what you're saying?
That's got to be a hell of a great set. Going back real quick, speaking of jazz, and going back to what TARDIS writer said about that quote from Thelonious Monk, Ornette Coleman gave a great interview to the UCLA Bruin student newspaper in 1973, and whoever it was that was interviewing him at the time asked him what he thought about his critics that said that a lot of the music that he did was avant-garde and outside the rules, and that, it didn't jive, and they just hated it because it was so left of center. And Ornette Coleman said something that I thought was really profound. He said, what those people don't understand is that the rules of music are not there to tell you what you can and can't play. The rules of music are only there to tell you why whatever you're playing sounds the way it sounds. And I feel like for people that are classically trained that aren't into jazz and are very regimented and into the rules like that, a quote like that is probably considered very callous. But at the same time, I mean, when I read that, I was just like, yeah, I mean, he's absolutely right. I mean, from a physics standpoint, the rules of music are there to tell you why whatever you're playing sounds exactly the way it sounds. And that's it. It doesn't go any deeper than that. That's really cool.
Let's take a look at this monk. Newly unearthed 1968 recording was the buzz of the jazz in the world in 2020. The unnamed high school janitor recorded this extraordinary concert. Wow, that's awesome.
So
can you scroll up and see the cover art for that again, Adam?
I've seen this image before.
Oh, that's Palo Alto. Okay. Yeah. So that's actually, so that came out like a year ago and there were some legal issues with it. So they had to pull it. But I think there was actually finally an approved release that came out. So I wonder if this is just a, Rock the Jazz World in 2020. Yeah, this came out last year. That was all the rage, and all of my jazz buds were talking about it. And I wonder what the Record Store Day release is. I wonder if it's just a different color vinyl or something like that. But that's it's a very neat nugget of history.
Let's take a look at this So I'm looking at the web version, and this is the PDF version, which I printed for each shop. There's also a Charlie Parker. Man, I wish Don was here.
What's the Charlie Parker? I must have missed that.
There's a Daniel Lanois. No, not Lanois, Lanius. What am I looking for? I'm looking for Monk. I mean, there's just, we could do this every day until Record Store Day drops, July comes along. But
the Charlie Parker is Manhattan Stories, Shawn.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
It's a release. It's a re-release. Don't know when it started, when it came out originally. Newly remastered.
I'm trying to find Thelonious Monk on here.
Recorded in 1965, originally, Shawn.
I'm not seeing it quickly.
What was recorded in 65, Kurt?
This album features guitarist Gabor
Gabor Szabo.
Yeah, Ron Carter.
Gabor Szabo, as part of Chico Hamilton's quintet in the 60s, recorded some of the greatest jazz ever made in the 60s.
Ron Carter and drummer Pete La Roca captured live in 1965 at Judson Hall in the Slugs in New York City.
Damn. Wow.
That's the Charlie Parker record. Or Charles Lloyd. That's Charles Lloyd. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there's no way a Charlie Parker album was recorded in 65. Charlie Parker died in 1953.
Bird in L.A. is Charlie Parker.
Very cool. You know, it's really a shame that so much of Charlie Parker's stuff was recorded before the LP era. Because, so much of Charlie Parker's best recordings came out like in the mid to late 40s before the LP was even a thing. So most of that stuff was on 78s. And a lot of the recordings of his that did come out in the LP era were compilations of his 78s. And a lot of them didn't sound very good. And it's really a shame. He was just caught right there during that transition period.
Yeah, it looks like this Charlie Parker is a previously unreleased historic recordings from Charlie Parker's legendary and highly eventful visits to Los Angeles.
Huh, cool.
45 to 52.
Yeah. He definitely had some very eventful stuff during that time. That was a good period for him because believe it or not, one of the reasons he ended up in Los Angeles was to help get clean because heroin was not as available on the West Coast as it was in New York. And he ended up going out to LA and ended up getting clean for a while. And that's why people say that was some of his most productive stuff. And a lot of the sessions that he did back then were really, really good.
Yeah.
Charlie Parker's a sad story, man. Really sad story.
Well, there's plenty of those sad stories in jazz, as we all know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people talk about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but jazz was full of more drug addicts and geniuses and burnouts than rock and roll could shake a stick at.
There are some local Backsliders is one of them, The Velt, Peter Huxtable, and there's a few others that are released by Record Store Day. And
Adam, did you ever see any of those local Raleigh bands back in the day when they were around?
I saw some. I saw The Velt, but I wanted to share with you a little bit about how it's a fundraiser. And I got to pull up the email, or can I? Can I say that? I think I can, but
yeah, if you can't, we won't tell a soul.
Well, but anyway, yeah, I'm not seeing it now. Darn phone. Anyway, so there's some local groups, folks, which is awesome, and we're all excited about with that, and also the fact that Record Store Day is. Yeah, I'm just totally unprepared in that respect, but I think it's more a fundraiser for music education, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, I think there's some drops too. We haven't talked about them, but we talked about specific artists, but there's some various artist releases that are really kind of interesting and outstanding in their own way. There's a John Prine tribute. There's the Steve Zizzo. What's the name of the record? The movie with So George and others who is a Bill Murray movie. But there's a bunch of great various artist releases or re-releases that are.
Which Bill Murray movie?
The Life Aquatic.
Okay.
Yeah. Where it has the Brazilian acoustic guitarist. I think it's Say George, who does David Bowie songs all through the movie, acoustic in Brazilian. So it's
wow.
Yeah. So that's exciting. Yeah, so many cool things, folks. Like I said, we could talk about it forever, but here we go. I'm excited to be part of Record Store Day. I'm excited for some of these wonderful titles that are coming.
So did you get the list together based on our conversations here?
Well, I've added to it. If we
all the drops, does that way understand?
If we went on for another 12 hours, I could probably.
I said, Adam, I'm down. Let's do it.
Have it. I can't. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here myself so that I can come back tomorrow. I missed some stuff. Is that Monk album from the high school recording?
Yeah, it is.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of those Bird sessions in LA were not good because.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. When he moved out to LA, he couldn't get heroin, but he started self-medicating with alcohol. But there was definitely a time where he was cleaned up.
Yeah. Well, TARDIS, when I order all this cool stuff, I want to see you number one at the door waiting to get in, but yeah. Wow, folks, this is wonderful. We could do it again next. I mean, I'll place my order, but we could do this every Wednesday night until Record Store Day drops in June and not even cover everything. But there's lots of good stuff here, folks. And
there's so much good stuff.
and I'm still learning, and I'll continue to learn, and people will tell me about stuff. They're like, "Oh yeah, did you know that this?" And I was like, "No," and so yeah, just
I want to note that both Adam and I have a Keep It Saxy game behind us.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is a Kenny G game that if any of you really want, I'm sure we would be able to part with them.
You see this? This is the disapproval.
I haven't even opened mine. It just sits back there. But
oh, look at Puppy. Puppy's comfortable.
Puppy's like, we're done.
Yeah, I want to try to get the sticker off there. But mine arrived with a big punch in the cover. Yeah.
No punch in mine.
I'm not a huge fan of Kenny G, but I will say his Christmas album is fantastic.
It is. He's a good guy.
You've never played his game then, Shawn.
Yeah.
Apparently there's a Kenny G game, which is what we both have.
That would be fun. I wonder if we could play it online. I mean, like, is it a game that we could share on StreamYard? And
again, haven't opened it. So
yeah. Shawn, keep on drinking. We're playing Kenny G.
Yeah. I know, I just took my last swig.
There you go. Well, I want to thank everybody for hanging out. Kurt and Shawn, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me.
And let's see if we can do this again before Record Store Day drops and cool things like that. Folks, read the list, discover it, check out some artists, check out some new stuff. Get out there and support your independent record store. And if they don't have the title, be nice to them because, yeah. Good night, everybody. Good night, Kurt. Good night, Shawn.
Good night.
Thanks.